Good morning there. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning here and I'm delighted to welcome you. I'm Grace Paul Adebayo. Welcome to yet another edition of Newspaper Review. And I will not be doing this alone. I've got...
Good morning, Grace.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
You look amazing.
You're not looking bad either.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning on The Review. My name is God's Time David, and Grace and I will be walking you through stories making rounds on front pages of newspapers in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. But before we got to the chase this morning, quite a number of stories have been making rounds on the front pages of newspaper. But the one that particularly caught my attention is the one that House of Representatives is confused because there is an ongoing, I would say, crisis or battle regards the recovered loot of Alison Madueke. So, Diziani, yeah. So, between AMCON and EFCC. So, EFCC is trying to say that this is supposed to be with us, and APCON is trying to say that this is supposed to be with us because, according to reports, there were some loans. So that most of those properties were used as collateral. So House of Representatives, they are actually confused as to who to stand with. That's one story that actually caught my attention on the front burners this morning.
Okay, I think they should rather decide who should whose custody should be, so that it will not be relooted again.
No, it's actually a difficult task because the EFCC is actually in charge of this case, okay, right? It was looted funds that has been recovered, right? But this other body, AMCON, is coming to say that these loots were used as collateral. Ooh. So if you use a particular asset or property as a collateral, you have to pay up.
Forfeit, yeah.
However, those properties were recovered as a result of crimes.
Insecurity, stop shifting responsibility to governors, Wike tells Buhari. Governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, says it is unconstitutional for President Muhammadu Buhari to shift its constitutional responsibility of securing lives and property of Nigerians to state governors. The governor, in a statement by his media aide, Kelvin Ebere, said the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and cannot declare that governors are in charge of security in their respective state. Wike, who spoke at the inauguration of the 21-kilometer Odufo-Akpofo-Umoyi road in the Echa local government area of the state on Tuesday, said such a position suggested that the All Progressives Congress-led federal government lacked strategies on how to tackle insecurity in the country. Now, I'm aware that the governors, they receive security votes, and I know that the president is the commander-in-chief of armed forces. From little I know about this, I know that the governors are still meant to secure the lives of properties of those in their state. So Governor Nyesom Wike coming out to say this is really, it calls for concern.
So what's this, according to the story, yes, we are all aware that the president is the commander-in-chief, and according to Governor Nyesom Wike, that it is not the governors, or rather the president should not shift blames to the governors. However, there is a clause.
Okay.
So, as you recall the conversations of state policing as a means of securing lives and properties within your community. Now, if Governor Wike coming out to say that the governor, or rather the president, should not shift blames. Now, going by the recent happenings, it would be unwise to start the blame game. Right? So both from the side of the president and the side of Governor Wike, it will be unwise to start the playing games. Yes. So it's not the right time, because Nigerians are not concerned. Of course, Nigerians are concerned about their lives, the safety of their lives and properties. But what Nigerians are actually clamoring for right now is the actual security, whether it comes from the state government, whether it comes from the federal government. So
All they want to be secured.
They want to be secured.
But
so the conversation of shifting blames to which side should not even come in the first place.
So both of them now, they have roles to play. So they should not just start the blame games.
We all have roles to play.
Everyone has got roles to play in the business of securing lives and property.
Let's move away from that story to this one. It says, military bombards bandits in northwest, north central forest. There were strong indications on Tuesday that the military had begun the bombardment of bandit hideouts in the northwest, north central, and some parts of the northeast. Top security officials who confided in newsmen said the bombardment, which started in Katsina and Benue State, would soon be extended to other states in the zones. Now recall that President Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, in an interview with newsmen, said the president had ordered crackdown on bandits terrorizing farmers across the country. Also, during a separate interview on Thursday, the president said he had ordered security agents to shoot bandits carrying AK-47. Now, this is a welcome development coming from the presidency. Now, I saw that interview with the president, and of course I also recall this other statements such that the president actually said that some armed forces, some men have been released to these areas to at least ensure that the lives and properties of these people are safe. Not just lives and properties, mostly the farmers, because the farmers are mostly affected by this. So
when the farmers are infected, everyone is affected because we have to eat.
Exactly. And according to reports, report is saying here that military had started the bombardment already. Now, if you read through that story, you will see that it's not just in Katsina State. It has gone beyond Katsina State to Benue State as well. Yeah, so
which is a food basket.
Exactly. So if this continues, and according to report also, it's going to extend and then at some point gets to other regions. But because these states are mostly affected, so they are priority right now. But we're really hoping that this is going to at least be one step towards reducing insecurity. You can take the next story.
It's a good thing. I must say that they are intensifying that's insecurity in that area. Okay, the next story, still on the Punch newspaper, it says, other states frustrating our plans to reform our Almajiri system. Other states frustrating our plans to reform our Almajiri system. It reads, Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje has blamed the nonchalant attitude of some of his fellow northern state governors for the influx of Almajiri children into the state. Ganduje said this in an interview with journalists as part of activities to commemorate Democracy Day at the government house, Kano State. He explained that while his administration was doing its best to control the situation, it was being frustrated by the nonchalance of some of his colleagues. The governor said, and I quote, unfortunately, most of the northern governors have not enacted any legislation on the Almajiri issue, which is actually causing a lot of setbacks in actualizing our dreams of addressing the challenge. End of quote. Now, the issue of Almajiri has been a big issue, particularly in northern part of Nigeria. You see children who are supposed to be in school rather go about begging, and from begging, some of them even steal. And then I know people that serve in that area. They've told me stories of how Almajiri, how they live. Sometimes forcefully you go try to get money from you forcefully. And the governor of Kano State is saying that he's doing all he can to make sure these people, to stop the influx of Almajiri into his state. But what about the other governors? Say they are nonchalant about it. But to have this, to stem the tide, it has to be a collective responsibility.
Exactly. It has to be a collective effort and responsibility. There should be some form of collaboration. He mentioned in the report, he talked about legislation. So according to reports, most of the states are yet to take a proper look into the Almajiri system, because if one northern state is looking into Almajiri system and the other northern states are not looking into the Almajiri system, it would affects the other states, which is doing everything they can to reduce it. So that is quite dicey, but we're really hoping that northern governors would come to a consensus and then have an agreement, reach an agreement to see how they can reduce the influx of Almajiri. Away from that story, since still on the Punch newspaper, reps confused as EFCC and ABCON fight on Diziani Ali's assets. I think we've already taken that story, but I'll quickly read the story. The House of Representatives had a committee on asset and status of all recovered loot, movable and immovable assets from 2002 to 2020 by agencies of the federal government of Nigeria for effective, efficient management and utilization in dilemma on how to resolve, or is in dilemma on how to resolve a brewing crisis between the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, ABCON. Report has it that on Tuesday, ABCON was laying claim to some assets recovered from the forfeited by some allies of former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Diziani Alice Madueke. Now, a prominent member of the committee told newsmen that the EFCC had approached the committee to prevent ABCON from getting the assets, some of which were said to have been used as collateral to secure loans from various banks. Now, we already talked about the story. It's a little bit dicey because ABCON goes and tries to get the assets, and then EFCC goes back and according to report, and blocks ABCON from reaching those assets. We will keep you updated as we have more reports on that.
Away from the Punch newspaper, I've got some stories on the Guardian newspaper, and here it reads, rising prices weaken disposable incomes despite easing inflation. I take the story. It says, it has got many riders here. I'll take it. Okay. It says inflation in May stood at 17.93%, still among the highest in 4 years. Inflation pushed 7 million people into poverty in 2020, says World Bank. Critical reforms needed to reduce inflation, accelerate recovery. Federal government urged to liberalize NAFEX window, remove fuel subsidy totally. Now, before I even take the story, what comes to mind is the prices of commodity. You see that there have been persistent general increase in the price of commodities, and even a sachet of water that usually was sold at 5 naira is now it goes now at 20 naira. The frizzy drinks I will buy that is now was 100 naira goes at it's been sold at 150 naira. And you can imagine those below the 30,000 naira minimum wage, how they are surviving. We saw also last week's Esther and I were talking about.
Let's not even talk about the minimum wage, because how many persons are even receiving 30,000? So it's the inflation is not just affecting the general development and economic in Nigeria. It's affecting individuals. And you know one thing about inflation, most times it is difficult for these prices to go down the minute they are up there. It's difficult. One of the writers that actually got my attention says inflation pushed 7 million people into poverty in 2020, according to World Bank. So if inflation pushed 7 million people into poverty in 2020, what will happen in 2021 by the time we get a report from World Bank or other organizations? That's not a good story. But let's move away from that to this one is on health. Nigeria and others for clinical trials on novel Lassa fever vaccine. A novel vaccine candidate to prevent Lassa fever is set for second round of clinical trials on adults and children in Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. This is with the support of Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, CEPI, and the European and Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership. Now, both sides on Tuesday confirmed they are jointly awarded 22.8 million euros to the International AIDS Vaccine Initiative for the exercise. Now, this is a welcome development as the second trial of the Lassa fever vaccine is it's in progress. So it's not just limited. I think Esther and I were having this conversation yesterday, how that focus has been pushed so much on coronavirus, which is not a bad idea. However, focus should also be
on Lassa fever,
as well as other diseases. So this story is also one that gladdens my heart to see that the health sector, the World Health Organization, and other health organizations are doing everything they can to put more emphasis and to focus more on other illnesses as well as diseases.
So away from the Guardian newspaper, I have the Vanguard newspaper with me. On the front page reads the stories. Ondo FEC member, Northern Governor, Meiti Allah fingered in pressure to shift a court judgment. Ondo, our monarchs, elites aid herdsmen atrocities. That's coming from Ekiti farmers. Electric car assembled in Nigeria, fantastic innovation. I can tell because I just drove it, Oshibaja says. Reps probe police over missing $7.5 million recovered loot. Court in Makurdi resumes sitting after 3 months union strike. You must end insurgency, banditry, others. Reps tell new army chief. In 2023 presidency, zoning can't stop Tinubu from clinching APC ticket, says ex-minister. Traders count losses as FHA demolishes structures, markets in Festac. Federal government inaugurates committee to draft bill to transit to knowledge economy. Changing Nigeria's road, rail infrastructure development story. And World Bank, IMF established advisory group on sustainable inclusive growth. Nigeria at the crossroads and its political odyssey. Looking at this story, one of the stories that caught my attention has to do with innovation. It's electric car. Yesterday, Vice President, the person of Yemi Oshibajo, drove an electric car that was assembled in Nigeria. It's a fantastic innovation, according to him. But I saw the tweet by many Nigerians. They're like, "Are we ready for it?
I saw the video on social media platforms yesterday, and I was excited to see that, right? I was excited to see that Nigerians are doing everything they can. So that's not actually the first, that's the first electric car, but Nigerians are actually very innovative. Now, as you said, the questions in the minds of almost every Nigerian is this sustainable? Do we have everything it takes to make this sustainable? However, let's not be pessimistic. Let's look at what the future holds, because I saw that the Vice President, in the person of Professor Yemi Oshibajo, was very optimistic about that innovation, as well as other Nigerians, regardless of the fact that Nigerians think that might not be sustainable. But let's keep the spirits going. Of course, at this point, we need anything that breeds good news. So I am optimistic, actually. I'm optimistic.
Okay, also on the Vanguard newspaper, it says court in Makurdi resumes sitting after 3 months union strike. Recall that the JOHSON has been on strike for over 2 months, and just yesterday they resumed. And I learned, according to reports in Abuja, the lawyers were not available, but in Lagos, they tried some cases. But my concern is they've been at home, they down their tools for over 2 months. According to the Vanguard, it says 3 months. And what will happen to the backlogs of cases that they have to try? How would they do this in a short period of time?
Well, they have a record of these cases. So by the time they get back fully, they would go by the cases they already have. But the conversation or the story of Jason is not news. If you've been following us, you will know that conversation is not news. But we would follow that story because it's not Jason's story, and strike is not one that we can jump into conclusion. We don't even know the details yet.
And not that the federal government has yielded to what they wanted. They haven't. They just resumed operations.
Yeah.
So they're looking at they've given them an ultimatum for them to to listen to them, to yield to what they are, to give them the judicial autonomy. We hope that they do just as if told them.
We can take this morning a newspaper review. If you missed the show, remember to join us at 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. for details of these headlines and other stories. My name is God's Time David, wishing you an amazing day.
And I'm Grace Paul Adebayo. Have a great day ahead.